sit down. Coming out of PE town. Drink, find a shot. Never mind your liver, get to Gino's spot.
Gino spot.
Get to Gino's spot.
Gino spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle. Have a Gino shot.
Gino shot.
Get to Gino's spot.
Gino spot.
Get to Gino's spot.
Gino spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle. Get to Gino's spot.
Gino spot.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Center Stage.
And that's it. That's the intro for us now. Yeah, we're on and ready to go.
Things have changed a bit.
Gino's, but it has. We've changed it tonight. I know we're starting a bit early. So, guys, if you've joined us, if you're joining us obviously later, you might have to come back here to this spot right here. Rob said he puts a little stake in the ground and erases your memory. So we can erase their memories. And we're here with fires. It's firing on all cylinders tonight as well.
Should I hope so?
Yeah, but absolutely. We haven't had Mike on for a while. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to be back. The decor's changed a bit.
It has.
Quite a
it
few
has.
things have changed, in fact.
No, we're getting more and more pro as we go along.
I see that.
There we go.
Great guest tonight. I must
Fantastic guest, of course.
I'm really looking forward to this.
Rob, and of course he's been everybody that I've spoken to, I've seen him getting Rob Hersov. Whoa!
No, as I said,
that's going to be a show.
People told me today I was talking shit. I mean, how do you get hold of this guy?
I know.
But
no, we're on. We've got him, and it's ready to go. Thank you to our sponsors, Fitch and Leeds, and to Amobia, our internet service provider. They've been fantastic, supporting us right from the beginning. Right from the word go. After that second speech of Ramaphosa's during COVID, we've been going strong. And I was just saying to Rob that always the only remnant I think is my dress code, which is always a little bit crazy.
Sean Thompson still wants that.
This top, exactly. You know, it's my Eastern Cape top. But we're ready to go. Rob is waiting in the wings. We're gonna do our little usual intro, and then we're gonna get our special guest on. It's Rob Hersov, and it's gonna be. We'll see what he has to say. I don't think he holds back much.
Have we got another intro?
There's a short. It's a little one just to get him on.
I see. Okay.
Let's see.
Welcome to the show. Now it's your time to shine. We're gonna have a lekker chat tonight. Another good time.
And there we have it. Rob Hersov, welcome to the show.
You know, when my secretary told me you guys had booked me, I thought it was G-Spot. So what am I doing here?
Oh, it's a clever little, play on words,
How you start things. It's not how you start things. It's how you start things.
Correct.
Exactly. Exactly. And I know that you I was thinking earlier on that I've done the one thing that you always wanted to do, by the way, Rob. You'd think a guy, Michael House, he's got a Harvard degree, the works,
MBA.
MBAs at Harvard. He's done everything in his life, basically, but he's never been a comedian, and he wanted to be one.
Did you want to be a comedian, Rob?
No, I want to be. I want to do stand-up comedy. And my
you
wife
still
is not happy. She's not happy with my public speaking. She's definitely not happy with the stand-up comedy.
I can tell you that it's terrifying, Rob. I can tell you it's a terrifying job, but it's good.
Do I have to dress like that, though?
Hey, it helps.
Even worse. You must see him sometimes, Rob.
Anything helps. But Rob, you've obviously Michael House. You're talking to two VP boys, yeah. So this is another level on this side. So when you speak to us, obviously you got to speak in. You got to lower the bar.
I've got to be respectful. Here. I've got to be respectful.
No.
I've got to kiss the ring.
Shit.
Yeah. Okay, no, it's fine.
Just chatting before the show, Rob, and I've heard you mention this before on some of you, or on one of your many podcasts. You were talking about the fact that your dad's 99.
Yeah.
And I mean, you don't look a day older than 51.
I know. He turns 99 this August. He caught the last 14 months of the Second World War as a South African Air Force pilot. Okay. And I asked him yesterday, because somebody reached out to me, and Gert Skuman, and said that he's just fascinated by Second World War veterans, South African Air Force. There's so few left. Could I ask my dad if he still has his logbook So I messaged Dad and said, "Do you still have your logbook?" He said, "I have all 3 of my logbooks."
Oh, no ways. That's fantastic.
And Rob, did he continue flying after the war?
He did. He's been passionate about flying. He went to Michaelis and then he went straight into the SAF. But he has been flying all his life. We've always had airplanes in our lives. And I don't know when he last flew, but it must have been, I don't know when they force you to give up, but I think it's just an eyesight delay. He would have gone for
Take away your keys.
And
exactly.
What did he fly? What did he fly in the war, Rob?
Spitfire. He was 3 squadron. I think I'm going to get this right. 3 squadron. And as of today, he's still the honorary colonel of 21 squadron.
Wow. Rob, there's those guys on a different, in a different plane. It's that silent generation, which are so giving as well. They take a lot. They're usually so patient and so, I think our new generations are a lot more unforgiving.
I must tell you,
Do you know a really interesting thing? Everyone's heard of Sailor Milan, who was one of the Battle of Britain top fighter pilots. And he was called Sailor Milan only because he arrived by boat. It had nothing to do with anything like that. But when he came back from the Second World War, he helped form the Torch Commando, which fought against the Osama Brandwehr. But a less well-known South African Air Force hero was Sir Roger Bushell. And if you in Hermanus, and there's the guns in the gun in Hermanus, it's pointing in.
Yes.
And you look at the plaques underneath. It's one of the people who died. He was from Hermanus, was squadron leader Roger Bushell, and he created The Great Escape. You know that famous movie?
Yeah. Okay, yes.
He was the guy, the initiate of The Great Escape.
Oh, my
I think it was Stalag 7 Luft B or something. Inescapable, only officers, and I think 60 of them escaped. Most of them were recaptured and shot by the SS.
76. I'm fascinated by that shit, Rob. Much like I'm fascinated by Spitfires. I'm doing 2 paintings at the moment of Spitfires. And it's an iconic aeroplane, so I can imagine.
Ron Belling you.
Well, not quite. In fact, a long way from it, but that's for another day.
But that's also that whole the war generation is obviously dying out.
So Lammy, Alan Lamb, his dad was South African Air Force, and Rob Lowe, our Springbok hero, his dad was his dad was SAF as well.
Yes,
there's a guy that you look like. It's probably Rob Lowe, actually. Rob.
I got a funny story. We were at the Die Data, and he and I are great friends, and we came in together a little bit late for a dinner, and they don't really not forgiving. And Dan, the amusing guy, was like, "Now we have trouble. 2 Robs." No, he's a great friend.
He was a great rugby player.
Okay, and so I mean that's Basil. Your dad's is and your grandfather was also, it was all this Anglo-American, is that
Anglo-Vol.
right? So it was mining and all sorts as a.
So Bob Hersov was went to Wits. He was the only one of the children that they could afford to send to university. So clearly the smartest. He did mining engineering, and when he left Wits, he teamed up with his best buddy Slip Metal, who was a stockbroker, and they founded Anglo-Vol. And they had some failure, success, and then it just took off like a rocket. And it was mining, industries. And in the 70s and 80s, it was one of the great mining industrial companies of the country, of South Africa.
Yeah.
So I was born into that. You don't have to buy me lunch.
Yes. Just one thing before you go to Mike. Actually, one thing you touched on, which is, because I know you don't steer away from controversy.
What do you mean by that?
There's the Osama Brandwehr you were talking about, and it's always been a thing in my head. Like, I didn't live in that war era where we were sending the guys over. We were under British rule, obviously at that time. We were a colony. The Afrikaners here. If you look at it, was there, and there must have been sympathizers for the Germans, as well.
Listen, on a life
for Vuuren,
didn't?
He was imprisoned. He was imprisoned during the Second World War as a Nazi sympathizer. But I think they weren't Nazi sympathizers. They were more anti-British imperialists.
Okay.
It was more that.
Okay.
But Jan Smuts, he was an Afrikaner. He was very pro-British and became one of Churchill's most favoured advisors. So So I think they were split, the Afrikaners. There's still the remnant of the Boer War and the British concentration.
I mean, if you just come out of a war with Britain, you're going to choose the other side. I always thought to myself, how did they navigate that? Must have been a difficult time to navigate, you know.
So Rob, after Michael Haas, was it down to UCT?
UCT, then 2 years in the army.
So you didn't
I wanted to ask you about the army, in fact. I believe you were a lieutenant. Infantry.
First lieutenant, yeah. Well, I did it after university.
Yes.
That's why, yeah.
I was initially called up to Youngsfield, anti-aircraft, and then I said, I don't want to do that. I want to go into the Navy like everyone else. So I pulled every string I could and ended up in the army.
were you in Oudtshoorn?
No, I was up at Vuuren.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But
I was wondering.
I'll tell you a funny story. Okay, this is not known. It's never been told in public. When I was at UCT, I was trying to make the basketball team. And in my final year, I was never going to make the team. I was trying my best. This German guy, Thomas Aufderheide, I remember his name to this day, came up to me and he said, "You're Rob Hersov." I went, "Yes." He said, "You are never going to make the basketball team." And I almost like said to him, man. And he said, "I'm launching this new sport, handball. I'd like you to come and play because I think you've got the skills." Mm-hmm. So in the final year of UCT, we launched handball in the Western Cape, and UCT had a team, and that was it. There were like about 30 people playing it. And so because Gauteng, or Transvaal in those days, had a provincial team out of the 150 people that played it up there, I made the Western Province scene. Okay. So I went to the army, and I'd been warned in advance when there's sport parade, when they say rugby,
Wednesday,
cricket, 80%, and then they're like, anyway, at sport parade, I'd made my own tracksuit, Western Province handball, because they didn't hand them out. They were only like, out of 30 people, they chose like 10, and I was one of the 10. So I was Province handball. And the sergeant major walks up and he goes, "Can I swear on your show?"
Yeah, absolutely.
Funny as he says to this guy, this Parat guy, and the guy goes, "Springbok, Taekwondo," and he goes, "Over martial arts." Then there's a hunchback, a guy with a proper hunchback. He looked at him, he said, "Go to the medical center." There are like 1,000 guys sport parade, me standing there. Okay, that's slightly too long, and he goes, "What is die sport?" And I go, "Handbal, Somajor." And he goes, "Okay, you've got 5 days to find an officer that's going to represent your sport. Otherwise, you're going to play rugby." And I found a colonel who was happy to represent handball. And he just gave me tickets to get out every weekend. It was fantastic.
Oh, classic.
But the next year, when Lawrence Rose, Dave Davies, Clifford Elphick, Guy Shutt, all came into the army, I then formed a South African Defence Force handball team. And they all played handball, and it's now a fantastic big sport in the SADF. And I run into people at pubs in the Karoo and up country. You go, "You saved my life in the army. I played handball."
Classic. Tell me this. You're involved in paddle as well, the paddle.
Yeah. So I co-founded Africa Paddle in South Africa. We've got about 90 courts, and I founded Pacific Paddle in New Zealand.
Okay. Oh,
that's going to be even better there. It's going to be even better there.
Because we had Patrick Grew on here. Patrick.
He's got the franchise.
Here, Eastern Cape, but it's obviously Africa Paddle.
Africa, paddle. So I've got I think 4 courts in PE at Old Grey, and 2 courts in Plet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Old Grey's our drinking hole. But now, interestingly enough, we had Graham Joffe on here. Joff is my boy. Not long ago, I'd say 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was talking about paddle in America. And, well, I certainly had never heard of it at that time.
Pickleball as well.
And there was nothing like that in Port Elizabeth. Yeah. And Joffers was telling us about this paddle and how it's going to take off. And believe me, it certainly did take off. It's all over the place.
we founded Africa Paddle. We were the first into the market 3.5 years ago. There are now 800 courts in South Africa. 800. Wow. New Zealand has 6 courts. We've opened 4 this week. We're going to have another 15 more. So South Africa's 800 courts, and New Zealand's, let's say, 10, 15. New Zealand's going to get up to 500-600 courts as well. And America, I think there are 100 courts in the whole of America. They're going to be 20,000. They're going to be 20,000. Send all your sons and daughters to set up paddle in America. It's a no-brainer.
It's the kind of sport that just it sort of exponentially gets
It's addictive.
busier and busier. Yeah,
Very, very much so.
yeah. And tell us about the airport. The airport.
The
Everybody's
airport.
talking about this airport in the Western Cape.
The one and
The
So
Winelands.
this buddy of mine, Nick Ferguson, my best buddy, we're in business, got a couple of businesses together, called me one day and he said, Rob, you know about aviation, don't you? And I said, yeah, I've lost a fortune in aviation. I really have. Because
like
I owned
boats.
exactly. No, it's worse because you own the businesses. I owned a third of Air Berlin at one point, the second biggest airline in Germany.
Wow.
And the strategy was right. Buy it and sell it to one of the Middle East airlines. But we got our timing wrong. And then I founded Marquis Jet, a private jet company, sold it to NetJets, became vice chairman of NetJets. And even to this day, I'm the senior advisor to VistaJet, which when I joined them, 12 aircraft, now over 400 aircraft. So aviation, it's been good and bad.
Okay.
And so Nick said, let's drive out and have a look. And we drive out there and there's this place for Santa Cral. It's like an airfield, 4 runways built by the British in 1942, little airplanes flying around, but a real mess. And he said, we're going to buy this. And I went, why? And he said, don't worry about it. We'll work it out afterwards. And this is the genius of Nick Ferguson, my buddy. He sees something and says, let's buy it. Let's get control of it. Knowing he can work it out afterwards. He's a genius. He did a biscuit mill, Amazon Web Services headquarters in Cape Town. He and I doing other things together. And we did. And if you want to really understand the genius of Nick, 1 year into owning this airport, we're working on the master plan and putting in more money and fixing things up. Nick comes to me and says, guess what I've discovered? Cape Town is the only major city in the world that doesn't have a second airport. And I said, so what?
correct.
The so what is whenever a plane takes off, it's filed a flight plan. And in the flight plan, it says how much fuel, where you're going, how many passengers, and your diversionary airport. The airport you're going to divert to if there's a problem. And you've got to carry enough fuel on your airplane, regardless of where you're, of where you are in the world, to get you to that diversionary airport. For local planes flying in South Africa to Cape Town, if there's a problem on the runway, they've got to divert to Bloem, Uppington, George. But for international flights, they've got to carry enough fuel to fly all the way back to Joburg or Durban. 2 hours of extra fuel. And a flight from London is 10 hours. Flight from Abu Dhabi or whatever is 10 hours. They've got to carry 12 hours of fuel.
I see.
So
then
Nick-
I don't need to do it anymore.
Exactly. So what Nick and the team did is they went to all the 10 airlines that fly to Cape Town International and said, if we gave you a $100 bill for no reason, would you give us $50 back? And they all went, yeah. Why are you saying this? Guess what? You're going to share the savings with us. And Lufthansa signed.
Okay.
Lufthansa signed.
Wow.
But the savings not in fuel, it's in cargo rates, because they're not going to just take less fuel. They're going to take more passengers, more cargo. So this is probably, hopefully going to be the most profitable airport in the world even before it opens, because these airlines are going to pay us on every flight huge amount of money. So,
wow.
Business, for anyone, any young people that want business advice, pick a great partner. Get someone that's smarter than you and does all the work. That's
And
what
Rob, if I remember clearly, didn't you make an offer to the government to buy all the airports in South Africa? Whatever happened to that?
So when you look at all the secondary, when you look at any of the airports in South Africa, they're falling apart. Okay. AXA,
Correct.
Airport Company of South Africa, is run by Mrs. Mpofu, Dahlia Mpofu's ex-wife. You're starting to get scared. She's not ANC. She's EFF. She believes in nationalizing bank, land, mines. And this woman runs AXA. Okay, are you scared? Now you know why South Africa is falling apart. So we had a look at all the airports in South Africa and said they're a disaster. All the budgets have gone missing. Things are not getting fixed. There's going to be a problem. Now, knowing the ANC would never give up control of Cape Town, Durban and Joburg, we had a look at the secondary airports, Uppington, George, things like that. And we put together a bid, but we couldn't get Fakila and Beluda, I mean, he wouldn't even understood what we'd said if we'd presented it to him. He's not very smart. But we kept trying to get people to pay attention, and they didn't. So I said, all right, let's just announce it in the press. So it was announced, Hersov and Ferguson, to buy all the secondary airports in South Africa. And I think we put in a 3 billion rand offer, just a funny number. Fakila and Belula, Minister of Transport, came out the next day and he said, these are strategic assets. We're not selling them to Hersov. And I responded the next day in the press. I said, if they are strategic assets, you should sell them as quickly as possible because the ANC destroyed every other strategic asset.
Yeah,
anyway,
correct.
It didn't make me very popular, and we didn't buy the airports, but would have been a good deal.
Okay.
So going back to, you finished the army now. What did you do thereafter, Rob?
So I decided to go and see the world, travel, and ended up going through Burma with my brother and Richard Nodder. And Richard Nodder is a very famous overseas South African. He is probably one of the top 4 guys at Goldman Sachs. I think he's head of international Goldman Sachs. He's done incredibly well. 6'6". He and I played rugby together at UCT, and he's a super smart guy, and he's made a fortune, and he's one of the most important investment bankers in the world. Traveling through Burma, and I was interviewing, all through Asia and Australia. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I'd had this kind of weird meeting with Simon Murray, who was one of the most important people in Hong Kong. And my dad had written 2 letters to 2 different people: Nigel Rich, head of Hong Kong Land, and Murray. And Murray had been a French foreign legionnaire. There's a whole book about him, and he was running one of the biggest. He was running Jardine Fleming, one of the biggest companies in the world out of Asia. And I'd had a meeting to go and see him, but he was in a board meeting. So his secretary went into the piece of paper saying, you agreed to meet this young man. So he comes out of the board meeting, shakes my hand, says, what do you want? And I said, well, my dad said I should come to you for career advice. He said, all right, calls his secretary over. He says, call Goldman Sachs, tell them what's your name? Rob Hersov. Tell him Rob's here and tell him to interview him. And then he turns to me and he says, here's my advice. Go work for an American investment bank, do an MBA, and then give me a call in about 5 years' time. Goodbye. And he goes back into the meeting like a 1 minute, he just had to he was trying to get rid of me. He was trying to get rid of me.
Yes,
sure.
So I go straight to meet Tony Moore at Goldman Sachs. There are 5 employees. The office was 5 people. It's about 500 people today. It's 5 people there. And Tony was the head, and he probably never got a call from Simon Murray. Certainly not that powerful. So I walk through the door. I'm still in my, looking like some idiot. And he chats to me for 15, 20 minutes. And he goes, okay, I'll call you tomorrow, let you know. I get a call and say, okay, you've been hired. You're going to work at Goldman Sachs, but you have to go to New York to be trained. And that's how I got my job at Goldman. I was like complete fluke.
Wow.
So I worked at Goldman Sachs, decided I didn't want to go to Asia. And from there, I managed to fluke my way into Harvard Business School. I'd never get in there today.
Wow.
And then,
Why do you say that?
How did you fluke into that?
the fact that I was at Goldman Sachs gave me a big advantage. In those days, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, McKinsey, and Bain were the 4 best companies in the world.
Yeah.
Outside of operating companies. In Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Oxford, Cambridge. Yeah. Today, there are 100 universities you can go to and that are excellent, and 100 different businesses you can join that are excellent. It's no longer just Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley. But the fact I was at Goldman gave me a leg up. And secondly, I think I was one of the very few South Africans that even applied to come to Harvard Business School. And it was in the middle of apartheid. And I think that my CV, military service, infantry officer, they looked at it and thought, this could be interesting. We want someone like this in the mix.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But just as a matter of interest, Rob, sorry, how did you get into America, or how did you gain access to America? Or
in those days,
it a lot more relaxed in those days?
Yeah, in those days, Goldman Sachs hired me, said I was just coming over for training. I got a H1 visa.
Okay.
Then I decided to stay. I was already working for them.
Okay.
I didn't cross the Rio Grande from Guatemala into Mexico. Yeah, but the walls, they've closed the wall. The wall's closed.
Yeah.
He's done it in 100 days. Bang.
We want to talk to you about Trump.
Yeah,
but we'll come back to that. I'm
immigration
keen
like
to
that,
follow
yeah.
this career path.
Yeah.
So how long did you stick around at? Yeah, sorry.
So I went to Harvard Business School, and it was the midst of apartheid. And you know, I took a month sailing beforehand, long hair, suntan, looked like a hippie, and in my Facebook, which was a paper book in those days, it said, you know, Rob Hersov, 2 years, investment banker, Goldman Sachs, 2 years, infantry officer, South African Defence Force. And it was 1987, 1988, 1989. Wow. Think about when they, and not one African American spoke to me in those 2 years. They just turned their backs on me.
I'm sure.
They just read my Facebook and assumed I was, you know, some lunatic fascist.
Yeah.
You know, not that it made any difference to my career. I made some great friends otherwise. And just to piss them off, I actually applied to join the African American Society on the basis I was more African than any of them.
Yeah, correct.
But you know, I went to my 20th reunion with my wife, and these guys came up to me, you know, and they were like, "Rob, great to see you again." I said to my wife, "He didn't say a word to me in 2 years, nor did he." We're all friends, all forgotten.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, of course.
And then the Rupert Murdoch connection?
Yes, I remember that's your because you starting this media thing here as well. It's the Daily Wire, I think, is that you're busy with here. Truth Report is called.
So what happened was I was dating this hot redhead. She was just, I can't even remember her name. And she asked me, "What are you going to do after Harvard Business School?" I said, "I haven't got very well organized. I need to get a job, but I'm quite interested in media." And she was like, "Well, I know Stan Schumann. My dad knows Stan Schumann. So, you know, there's a business called Allen and Company, which is one of the biggest media investment banking firms in America and the world." So I get this, you know, a haircut like a G.I. Joe, you know, and I go through the door, and Stan Schumann shakes my hand and he goes, "Well, Rob, you know, this girl called me. She tells me you want to be in the media business." I haven't even said hello yet. She says, "You want to be in the media business?" Well, we're media investment bankers. If you want to be in the media business, you should go and meet News Corporation because I'm on the board. But before I send you to see Rupert, you got to meet this guy, John Evans, because John is the futurist. He's the guy that kind of says in a supermarket, the chips need to be next to the fish and, you know, all this weird stuff. Okay. And he calls his secretary and says, "Can you make sure Rob meets John Evans now?" I barely said hello. Okay. So I walked down, you know, from the office and up, you know, Madison Avenue down to lower 40th. Harper and Collins was the builder. He was in the Harper and Collins top floor. Walk through the door, and there's this stringy, gray-haired older guy. Walks up to me and he goes, "Before you say anything, let me introduce myself. I'm a reformed drug addict and alcoholic, and I'm marrying a girl half my age. Now sit down over here." Almost fell on my knees. "Hire me. I'm your man."
Inspirational.
But I look like
Your
an
kind
IBM.
of guy.
I look like an IBM salesman. Okay. And so he starts talking about the future of media. I still haven't said a word in 2 interviews, not one word. Blah, 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 it tells me. And he says, "But listen, if you want to be at News Corp, you're going to have to meet Rupert." And let me just set that up. Dials up. Rupert, there's this guy, Rob, South African, Harvard MBA. Sorry about that. Nothing we can do about that. Sure, I'll send him up right now. I still haven't said a word in my interview, okay? So I walk across to 1211 6th Avenue, up onto the second floor, Rupert's floor, walk through the door. I say, put my hand out. He goes, "You're Rob, the South African." He said, "Please sit down. What do you think the future of the media industry is?" And I went, "Technology?" And he went, "No, it's content." And then he spoke for the next 20 minutes about why content, and he was right, by the way, why content always is going to be the future of the media business. And and then he said, "All right, you're hired. What are you going to do for me?" And I've said one word in 3 interviews, and I got the word wrong. So anyway, I turned up, and I hadn't even graduated. So I turned up on Monday, and I said, "Well, why don't I work for you for 3 months? And if it's not working out, you can chuck me into one of your divisions." And it was the most incredible 2.5 years working for Rupert Murdoch as his right hand, carrying his bag, riding in cabs with him, meeting Margaret Thatcher, everyone.
Gee was. Yeah, I mean, he's got connections everywhere, and it's direct lines to so many.
And
It's
he
passed on to him now.
remember Rupert Murdoch set up Fox News, set up bought 20th Century Fox, had owned the Sun, owned the Times.
Yeah.
He and Elon Musk have saved the world, the Judeo-Christian world, the center-right world, against the evil lefties, communists, socialists, wokies.
Yeah.
The two of them have been the most instrumental people in media, and Elon particularly for buying Twitter and turning it to X.
Yep.
We should do a shout out for Rupert Murdoch and Elon Musk.
I'd be interested to get your take on social media and where it's going to go and if it's going to self-destruct. It just seems to be getting. It's like this thing, a black hole that sucks everything into it, and it's almost like it's something's got to give.
So there's social media, and then there's podcasts. I mean, I think these are two different dynamics. Social media is a very interactive. My kids, I can see they can barely concentrate. Everything's immediate, and I think there's a lot of negative there, a lot of bad, a lot of evil.
Yeah.
And I worry a lot. I've never been on Instagram, Facebook, only recently on X. I'm not on LinkedIn, and I launched my YouTube channel in February. So this is all very new to me. And by the way, on all my social media, I didn't even have a login for Facebook and Instagram, but I believe I'm on it. Other people post for me, my team. And then my wife only allowed me to go on social media on condition that I don't have the ability to post.
She knows you too well.
It's like I'm the president, but I'm not allowed to touch the red button. It's kept by my wife. She knows me too well.
Rob, so as a matter of interest, I beg your pardon, carry on, sorry.
But on podcasts, I think podcasts are saving the world. I mean, I'm center-right, I'm free market, pro-democracy, libertarian, Judeo-Christian. I mean, this, I think, is a fundamentally important. I believe in freedom and free markets. And the podcast
activist.
Capitalist activist. And the podcast has saved the day. They saved us against a horrific, woke, leftist future. People like Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, and the equivalents in South Africa.
You think it's an alternative media? Like, they're always talking about this mainstream media, leftist media, right-wing media. It's like, you've got to keep myself. I'll watch CNN and then I'll go to Fox and then I'll go across and then, if you look at especially American politics, it's just crazy. You've got to almost try and widen your net, to get everything in.
So people tend to end up in echo chambers, but I think what Donald Trump managed to do, one of the reasons why he got elected, was he absolutely avoided CNN, NBC, CBS, ABC. He avoided them. Because he said that's the woke leftists, and they really are, and their ratings were going down. And he did interviews with Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, and the like. He did a 3-hour Joe Rogan podcast before getting elected, and I listened to the whole thing. At the end of those 3 hours, I said to myself, I like Donald Trump. I like Donald Trump. I think
he was very likable in that interview. I got to say, I'm not a Trump fan, but I listened to that podcast and I did think to myself, he's got a sense of humor. He's got, he was human in it. I think that was the thing.
And that's what the podcast does. It brings out, as we're doing, people are either going, what an ass this guy Rob is, or he's quite amusing, or he's not as bad as I thought. Whatever they're thinking, the human side comes out.
Yeah. And now Trump with his tariffs and his, what's your view on the tariffs? And
Genius. I mean, what he's doing is playing chess in 5 dimensions. Everybody's, Donald Trump's doing this. Trump's tariff. Watch the results. He fired a shot into the air to say, you better damn take me seriously, world, because I'm going to slap tariffs on you guys. Your heads are going to spin. Okay. He came out with proportionate tariffs.
Correct.
Everybody went, he is serious. He's a lunatic. He's going to destroy the world economy. No, Guess what's happened? 70 countries, 70, have reached out to the Americans to say, we get the message, we want to make a deal. And it includes the UK, Japan, Italy, Zimbabwe. I can go on.
Yeah.
And not South Africa.
Lesotho.
Not South Africa. And what's going to happen in the next few weeks, there's going to be announcements by the US, bilateral, of deals being done. America and the UK agree the following deal. And all he's doing is resetting the world. It's actually good for world trade because America has been ripped off. He's 100% right for so long. Countries have taken advantage of America. They're allowed to access American market, but if America tries to access their market, there are trade barriers. And Trump's going, I'm sorry, we've got $1 trillion trade deficit going on, and that's not fair and it's not right, and we're not suckers anymore. We're happy to do deals country by country, bilateral, and make it fair. So let's do a deal. And if there were 40% tariffs on America, he'd say, right, I'm slapping a 20% tariff on you guys because America is the consumer market. Everybody wants to trade with America. And China is getting the biggest snort clap in history right now. China tried to compensate from America's threat by doing deals with the European Union. The European Union, those wankers, come on.
Yeah.
They're quasi-socialist, go nowhere economies.
Look, I think Europe and America are on a different scale to Africa. You know, it's like I think the GDP is like 14 times the average GDP. Is it's 14 times what South Africa is.
But forget Europe. Forget Europe.
But surely there's got to be some sort of socialist thing involved. I mean, if America's sitting there like, are you a Monty Python fan?
Love Monty Python.
You know
Which
Mr.
one are you?
Creosote sketch? Mr. Creosote.
Just one more. One more.
Just one more little. That's what I imagine America and Europe to be, is this guy's just ordered everything in the menu and he's trying. And he's looking at Africa thinking, can I have some of yours? You know what I mean? I mean, surely there's something to pay. I mean, you're talking about capitalism, and capitalism. There is a dangerous side to capitalism, surely.
Don't call me Shirley.
No, listen here, Shirley.
Yeah.
Rob, if we can get a bit closer to home here.
Unless there's some sort of social thing linked with the capitalism, surely
Why?
Well,
do you know?
Otherwise, rich gets richer, poor, and then it's Mr. Creosote on one side, and
it's propaganda.
You know?
Do not believe that propaganda. My kids come back from school and believe the polar bears are dying and the ice caps are melting. It's rubbish. It's propaganda. Doesn't exist. Don't believe the greenies, and don't believe people that say socialism hasn't been tried properly. It's been tried properly. It's failed. Capitalism is not perfect, but it's the only system that brings people out of poverty. Capitalism works. So
maybe there's a middle ground. Surely, I mean, there's got to be. It's like
there's an interim ground.
You want a central thing.
There's an interim ground. There's an interim ground from where we are today, income inequality, hardcore capitalism, and create a social underpinning that gets us to a more libertarian, conservative future, which I think is the ideal. Capitalism is the most successful economic system known to man ever.
Because there should be some sort of social safety net. You know what I mean?
I think if capitalism, I'm about to say says who, but capitalism hasn't been tried properly. If you tip pure capitalism, everybody gets richer.
Yeah. How's it going to work here in South Africa?
I was going to say,
first we got to get rid of those.
Rob.
We've got to get rid of the racist and socialist, kleptocratic and ineptocratic ANC. I mean, they're scoring own goal after own goal. We've got to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And we've got to make sure
the
that
morons, things and
evil morons and evil clowns of the EFF and MK don't get anywhere near power. And we're in this funny interim step. We're in limbo right now.
I was going to ask you, Rob, paint a picture of South Africa as you see it at the moment.
A clown in a circus, eating all the food, letting the animals run wild, and not charging people for tickets to come and watch. That's South Africa right now. It's complete,
And
utter mess.
as precarious as this precipice is, what are the solutions here?
It's very bad right now. It's very, very bad. We have I mean, this VAT debacle, which the ANC lost to the DA. Forget these other silly parties like Rise, Mzansi, and Bosa. Forget it.
Everyone's claiming victory there. Yeah.
BS. BS. The DA won this one.
Okay.
Technical knockout.
Right. Okay.
What it showed is the ANC's inability to understand and run a sophisticated economy. They have deindustrialized our country. We're going backwards. Our economic growth is half our population growth, which means we're getting poorer every year. And we have a fiscal cliff we're about to fall over. We have enough money to pay our dollar debt, but we are on the edge of an economic crisis because the ANC will not cut costs. We've got 1.5 million civil servants who've just got a 5% pay increase. Instead of a 5% pay increase, we should fire 20 to 30% of them. But the ANC won't do it. They're all ANC voters, ANC cadres or cadres. And there are 28 million people on social grants. And Cyril says it proudly. Cyril says proudly, these are people that have no chance, uneducated, homeless, hopeless. And Cyril thinks giving them money is the way to solve the problem. He is a moron, and he's a spineless moron. I mean, you're getting me onto this. You're getting me wound up. Where's my drink? Where's my fidget leads? Where's my gin?
You were talking about that because I think the ministers and the vice ministers and things, it's bigger than any other country in the world, and I think they get paid more than.
You've often spoken about that.
I just saw a thing today where they said that they were paid
Foreign
more
embassies.
than as a percentage of GDP. They were paid more than any other country in the world.
So we have
close to the
32
top.
ministers. 32 ministers, and we have another 34 deputy ministers. Okay.
Yeah.
That's Norway has 18 ministries and Argentina has 8. They've cut them down to 8. We have 32. I always say, what does a minister of sport, minister of women do? What do they actually do?
Yeah.
They've got a budget. They've got blue lights. They've got blah, blah. What do they spend the money on? What is it? I mean, I don't think we should have a ministry of sports, arts, and cultures, even though Gayton's doing a very, very good job. A ministry of education is our biggest expense after debt service, about even. That's how destroyed our economy is. Our debt service is the amount we pay for educating. And we have some of the worst results in the world. Where does that money go? This country is absolutely on the edge of collapse.
But now, Rob, given the fact that
do?
well, good question. That was going to be my question. Do they ever listen to you?
No. A Swedish buddy and I wrote an open letter to the government and Cyril Ramaphosa on things you could do to fix the country, and it's very fixable. And I sent it to Moletsi Mbeki and Musi Mamani, just have a quick read of it before I sent it. And Musi said to me, Rob, why bother? I said, we have to try. We have to try. And he said, no. Why bother? You know they're not even going to read the letter. And if they did read it, they're not going to implement it because they don't care. And those 3 words sunk into my head. This is about 4 years ago. The ANC actually doesn't care about South Africa. It doesn't. If you keep people poor, uneducated, in the townships, on social grants, you own them. You own them.
What's it there? The Roman thing. It's panem et circum. It's bread and circuses.
Bread and circuses.
Yeah.
It's so funny. That's so funny you mentioned it. I shouldn't say this. I shouldn't say.
I'm half Italian.
Are we live?
I'm half Italian.
I was watching Roman torture methods podcast.
Oh, no ways.
How did I get onto that?
You know what's even better than that? Let me put you down another
6,000
rabbit hole.
animals. 6,000 animals.
Yes, that's it. If you ever want to find out who's stronger, a bear or a lion, You go and they go research the Romans. They did it all.
Brilliant. My kids ask me who'd win in a fight, a giant octopus or 10 sharks, and you're like,
Yeah,
think about
the
that.
Romans have
But
probably
the
done
Romans
it.
tried that out.
Yeah, they did.
But you know, Rob, just going back to the situation in South Africa, you'd think like we see what's going on in this country. I mean, the dilapidated buildings, the broken metros.
Yeah.
Don't they see this? Or
And
don't they want to
care.
see it?
They don't care.
do you think the GNU is a good step in the right direction now?
So I'll answer both those questions. I think the ANC are made up of very stupid people that didn't get an education, were part of the liberation controversies were rubbish, and have now graduated to positions of power. I think half of them don't read the documents they give as cabinet ministers, and the other half don't understand them. These are stupid people, dumb as ditch water. But I also think there's a level of malevolence and evil there, because they just want to stay in power, stay earning the money, stealing the money. And so they break so they can steal. I'll give you one little example. Think of Eskom and think of sending low yield coal into a turbine. What does it do? It breaks the turbine. It breaks the turbine.
Yeah.
So that they get a contract. Instead of buying high grade coal, they buy low grade coal at the high grade price, pump it through a turbine, and they make a lot of money doing that. The turbine breaks. What happens when that happens? They've got to import diesel. Have a look at who's got the importing the diesel contracts.
Correct.
If you break the railway, everything has to go by road and taxi, lorry and taxi.
That's
Who
killing us here in
benefits?
the Eastern
The
Cape.
lorry
It's in-
companies and the taxi companies. So that's the lorry and taxi companies are not incentivized to have the government fix the railways. It's break so you can steal. The ANC playbook. It's malevolence.
Yeah, we in the Eastern Cape, we're hoping for that Transnet to eventually come around because
Well, they've been
Gino,
saying it
you
for 20
asked-
years.
You asked me about GNU, what I think of it.
yeah.
So the GNU was a miracle. The fact is, if you added up the ANC, MK, EFF results of the last national election, it was 65%, the same as it was the time before. But the fact is, they all split into three different groups, which forced the ANC to do a deal with the DA and a bunch of other guys.
Okay.
Great thing. About 4 months in, I made a podcast, and Gayton called me up and he said, "You know what? You've called us out. You're right." Because I was saying, if you form a government of national unity or coalition, surely the parties get together and agree a mission statement. We're going to pursue this policy, and this is what we're going to try to achieve. They didn't do that. And I said, it's idiotic that they're all pulling in different directions. The ANC is trying to stamp on everyone else. And there is no mission statement. There is no direction. And have you ever heard anyone in the GNU mention the following words: investment or economic growth? And Gayton said, "You're right."
Correct.
He said, "Here's the problem. The priority of the GNU is to keep MK and EFF out of government. And then our priorities are economic growth, stability, safety, things like that. We haven't even got around to those priorities."
Yeah.
So the GNU is going sideways. The ANC's taken advantage of everyone. And fortunately, the DA decided to grow a spine and tackle the ANC on VAT and won. So what do I think of the GNU? Better than the alternative.
Yep.
Yeah. The alternative is.
But I think it's such a waste of time sending money to, Rise Mzansi, Action SA, BOSA. Get rid of them. We might as well just get behind the DA as hard as possible and stop fluffing around with these other parties.
Yeah.
And the longevity of the GNU, Rob?
I think it's got another year and a half in it, and it'll break up before the municipals.
We just hope that it breaks up. And so the next elections, that's another thing. What do you think?
I think the ANC will be gone by then. Gone.
Where are they sitting at the moment, Rob?
30% on the new
30%.
RR poll.
Really?
Yeah, they've gone from 42 to 30. DA is a margin above them. And the MK is, a clown circus. Everyone's running around, banging heads. And the EFF is, Julius has lost the plot and lost a lot of weight.
Julius.
Lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Wonder why.
Sure. Do we take him seriously, Rob? Should we take him
Yeah.
seriously, Julius?
Yeah. He's intelligent. He's a super smart, intelligent man who is an opportunist. I mean, he's not a communist. He's just an opportunist.
Have you met him? Have you spoken to him at all or not?
Yeah, I met him once. I hosted a lunch actually in London, and he came to speak, and it was fascinating because there was Lord Robin Rennick, my dad, all the top dogs of the city of London.
Yeah.
It was only 20 people because that's all he said. I'm only having he was very smart. He said, I'm coming to lunch, but I only want 20 people. And he refused to put on his red beret, which was clever because I was trying to, because I asked him
Of course,
to photograph. He said, no,
the
city
visual.
of London. And he was talking, and I was watching people around the table. After 10 minutes, most people are nodding their heads. You would agree with 80% of what he says. And then my father put his hand up and he said, Julius, how come in this meeting, in this lunch with all the who's who of the city of London, you can talk about sensible things and business, and yet you go to a rugby stadium, football stadium, it's kill the Boer, one settler, one bullet. And Julius said, I play to my audience.
Is that not populism? Is that not what populism is? I mean, we're talking about Gayton McKenzie. I would say he was a populist,
Yes, he is, but he's a principled populist. He's got values and principles. Julius is just out to cause havoc.
Yeah.
And is Trump going to sanction these guys individually?
I was going to ask you that question about this.
Hopefully.
That congressman, there's a guy, Ronnie Jackson, is it, who's been tasked with us drawing up a list of ANC cadres. What's happening with that, Rob?
So, I mean, just read the Zondo Commission. All the names are mentioned in there. Look, my message to President Trump and the ambassador in waiting is the following. 1, appoint a special envoy, which you don't have to have Senate permission to do that. You can just do it immediately, based out of the US Embassy here, who focuses on protecting ethnic minorities in South Africa. Have a special envoy appointed that just does that. Heighten the fact that Afrikaners, Indians in Natal, colored people are being persecuted by the ANC, which they are. Farmers, whatever those ethnic minorities described. 2, dump the embassy in Pretoria and put it in Cape Town. 3, if you're going to put tariffs and trade barriers on South Africa, don't do it on the Western Cape. The Western Cape never voted for the ANC. The Western Cape has always been pro-West.
Good point.
Free markets. Support the Western Cape and work through the DA offices here, because work through Jordan Hill Lewis, Alan Winde, and make the Western Cape your voice for South Africa. Do not accept any ambassadors, any representatives who are flying over to America to try and explain themselves to America. Stuff them. Until the ANC repeals EWC, starts removing BEE, and drops its case against Israel through the ICJ, do not listen to the South African government. Just bat them back. This ANC government is paid for by Iran, best buddies with China, and very anti-Semitic and anti-American. Bat them back. Just say, I don't care. Mr. Jonas, boom, boom, boom. We're not interested in meeting. We're not interested in meeting. And just be tough. And then put a list together of the people that deserves targeted sanctions. SDN, Magnitsky Act. Make it impossible for them to travel, impossible for them to utilize bank accounts, impossible for them to visit any of these places in the world. I mean, if you try and transfer money and an intermediary bank is American or linked with America, money's blocked, money's frozen.
Okay.
So, and do you think that'll happen, Rob?
Trump,
I think well, Brent Bozell is the ambassador in waiting, and he's going to be appointed relatively soon. And he is not going to take any nonsense from these ANC guys or MK or EFF. In 4 or 5 years ago, there was the South African Communist Party and members of the ANC were outside the US embassy shouting, "One American, one bullet."
Correct.
They deserve what they're going to get. I hope America doesn't sanction South Africa, whack South Africa with tariffs, because I think the majority of South Africans are not to blame, but the ANC are. And Cyril. Put Cyril on the list.
Is there an alternative to to be so or to anyway to try and bridge that wage gap, this huge gap in income, in this country?
So black economic empowerment does not work. It's been proven to has failed us. And by the way, it's not black economic empowerment. It's certain blacks who are friends of the ANC who get given all the goodies.
It's cadre economic
exactly.
empowerment.
If you're white, Indian, colored, or from the wrong black organization, tribe, or you stand up as a black person saying this is wrong, you're not part of BEE. It's goodies for friends. I mean, it's complete. It's racism, socialism. It's nasty.
But how do we uplift at the same time as
economic growth? The only thing that works is economic growth, and the only way to get economic growth is to get foreign direct investment, and the only way to get foreign direct investment is from the West, and is to repeal EWC. It's to start to do what I've been saying: get rid of BEE, sell off state-owned enterprises. In 1992, in Sweden, there was 100% income tax on rich people. 100%. People were leaving the country. Many.
That seems a bit.
The currency was there were a lot of state-owned enterprises, including the beer company. The Swedish beer company was owned by the government. I mean, why? And in 1992, the government looked at themselves and said, "It's not working. Let's change direction." They freed the currency. They sold off the state-owned enterprises, and they shifted from this nonsense socialism to a free market economy. And look at Sweden now, a huge success. And with the money that they generate out of taxes and from economic growth, and Sweden has a very high GDP per capita, they're able to provide what you were mentioning is a social protection, a social
safety net. Yeah.
But you can't do that until you have economic growth. And you can't have economic growth in South Africa if you continue down the path we're going down. And I don't see a single member of the ANC smart enough or brave enough to put their hand up and say, it's not working. Let's try another direction. So between now and 2029, we could have economic collapse.
You're talking about state-owned enterprise being privatized. Are you for that? Like you're talking about Transnet.
That's the first thing I do.
All these things.
First thing I do. Look, SAA has collapsed under its own ANC weight. And look what happened. Oh, if you fly, you can fly Safair, Airlink.
Yeah, of course.
Actually, nothing has changed.
Disappears anyway.
So why did we even need a South African Airways?
Yeah.
The same applies to Eskom.
If it's privatized, though, surely it wouldn't be privatized and the money that's paid there would be just go straight offshore.
No, because you could ensure that the people that buy it
insured.
It could be public-private partnership, so the government could have 49%, but you've got to let the private sector run it, because the ANC have no idea how to run a business, let alone an economy, let alone a country.
So
Rob, sorry, you touched on the Zondo Commission. Why no arrests?
Because there's no accountability. Cyril, spineless Cyril. If there's a problem, he's pathetic. He's no businessman, I can tell you that. Actually, if American put sanctions on these boys, doesn't Cyril own a lot of McDonald's franchises?
Oh, I believe so.
Those are American companies. Take those back from them. Strip those off Cyril.
Rob doesn't like his posts on Facebook.
Now, where were we? I've got off piece.
No, it's fine. Let's go back to you've come back to South Africa now. You've sort of I read something about the Daily Wire. What is that?
So the Daily Wire, it was set up by Ben Shapiro and
yes,
a couple of American
I listen to Shapiro every night. He's my right guy. So Rachel Maddow and then Ben Shapiro. I try and find in between.
There's some good ones. Konstantin Kissen, there's Dave Rubin, there's some very good podcasters. But what we want to do in South Africa is amplify the voice of people that believe in free markets, rule of law, democracy, capitalism, And there are lots of great podcasters in South Africa. There's Ronaldo Gous, there's Byron Shepherd, Morning Shot, Gareth Cliff, Pumlazi Majoji, Concerned Citizen, 360 Degrees, Colonel Chris Wyatt. You see them all. They're all popping up. And all of them are saying similar things. And Mike Sham is excellent. And what we're doing with the Truth Report is we're going to try and pull everyone together under one umbrella. They can still do their own stuff, but they need to produce dedicated content for the Truth Report. And, we'll have opposing views. Some people might believe in Cape independence, some may not. But generally, we are anti-socialist, anti-woke, anti-left. And this is going to be a center-right grouping of podcasters. And we think it's going to amplify the voice that all of us represent.
Yeah. But why wouldn't you go center, left and right?
It's totally
I mean,
well, it's just
because
does it just
you know
cancel
why?
itself out and then we end
Because
up with
anything left of center
Yeah.
has destroyed the world, destroyed democracy, destroyed capitalism. Anything left of center. Left is, to be a leftist, I think you have to have a mental illness, really. Anyone who believes in net zero has a mental illness. Anyone who believes men can compete in women's sports has a mental illness.
Yeah. Just going back to the podcast, I assume you'll include Alec Hogg as well, Rob?
Yes, Alec Hogg. What about
You'll include him
Alex
as
got
well.
his own business. Alex got his own business, Business News, fantastic business. And that's, I'd say, bang in the center.
Yeah.
I think we might be a bit more opinionated.
Is that the reason why you came back to South Africa? Why come back when you've got a good life over there? There's Mr. Creosote over there. You can order anything you like, Rob.
And why come back and live like a god and then do what I do, which is speak out? Because I've had death threats. I've had, big
I was going to ask you how it's affected your business dealings.
Yeah, big time. Big time. I mean, I have to resign from most of the boards I'm on because my poor business partners are saying, Rob, we're trying to raise money and everyone's going, is Rob Hersov involved? It's not easy.
Oh, dear.
No, it's that bad,
Oh, man.
I called all the corporate chieftains cowards and colluders, which most of them are.
Oh, my word.
And they won't speak to me. I used to be invited to the Dunhill Golf. Boom. Gone. No more invites.
Dear.
I mean, it's my wife's like, why are you doing this? And why am I doing it? Because I feel I have an obligation. I feel I'm doing and saying what other people can't afford to do and say. And in a country like this, I think it's an obligation. It isn't fun. It isn't fun, I can tell you.
And
I
Rob,
got deplatformed. I got deplatformed.
What?
By the Bishop's Old Boy Society. The Bishop Old Boys deplatformed. They invited me 6 months before to speak. 2 days before they deplatformed me. Woke bishops. It's getting better. It's not Michael House, but they try.
I know you've got a. In fact, I wanted to ask you, do Michael House invite you to do any talks?
I spoke last week.
Oh, is it? Oh, good.
I spoke to all the boys, which is great.
Okay. No sign of deplatforming you there?
No. I mean, Michael House is not work. Michael House is not work.
Okay.
Yeah. Rob, I know you've got a dinner appointment. We're not going to hold you for much longer. I just have one more question. I think it could have been the night before the Biz News conference. You made a talk in Amanus.
Yeah.
And something that sent chills up my spine. You spoke about, when was that? About 2 months ago. You spoke about the potential or the possibility of Israel taking Iran out. Is that still on the cards?
Yes. Israel is gagging to do it. They're ready to go. And remember, last year they took out the aerial defenses of Iran. Iran is absolutely helpless. If Israel want to take them out, their nuclear program, the Iranian guards, or their petroleum, Israel can clean them up, and they're gagging to do it. Trump is holding them back. Trump has said to Iran, we cannot allow Iran to have a nuclear weapons program or nuclear weapons. You've gone too far down the line, and we are giving you one last opportunity to negotiate. We're sending Steve Wishkoff and our top team, Mario Rubio, to do a deal with you, Iran. Here's what it looks like, but you got to do it quickly. And I think it's a matter of weeks maximum a month and a half, Israel will be let off the leash and they will close Iran down. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
You don't think that could lead to a third world war
Who's going to support
and an
Iran?
ultimate Armageddon?
Iran's
gonna
got a big
support
army.
Iran? No, Iran has the Iranian people want to get rid of the Ayatollahs. The Iranians want to be free. They've been suppressed, oppressed, and they want to be free. Israel knows this, and I think Israel takes out the guards, the Islamic guards, and all of their facilities. The Iranian people might rise up. Who would come to Iran's support? Not China, not Russia. They got their hands full and they're losing. So the same applies to the ANC. The ANC think, we can poke America in the eye because we've got Iran paying for us and we're friends with Russia and China. What do you think? Do you think Russia and China are going to help the ANC? Do you think Iran are going to help it? Forget it.
Yeah. Interestingly
So
enough, I see. Sorry, I beg your pardon, Rob.
A more worrying war is India, Pakistan right now.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
That's both nuclear countries.
Yeah.
You did say once that that Madiba, if you were around, you would vote for the DA. I know everybody probably brings that up because that was a big one.
Herman Mashaba was furious. He called me and just said, "How dare you?" I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "No, he'd vote Action SA." And I said, "Okay, I think you're joking." Madiba, I think Madiba would be disgusted by the ANC right now.
Yeah. There's a couple of questions before we let you go, man. I see Colin saying business owners need to step up. What's your advice for business owners?
Look, I think it's hard for small and medium-sized business owners to do anything that's meaningful, and anything you do has consequences. But I think it's inexcusable that the big corporate chieftains, who run Discovery, who run Aspen, aren't doing more to change the narrative and aren't confronting the ANC directly. And they always tell me, we're part of BUSA and ZUSA and NUSA. But, what do we see them doing? They create white papers, which, the ANC doesn't read. They have private meetings with Cyril where he tells them what they want to hear and then, does nothing. The corporate chieftains of the big corporates are at fault. I would not ask the smaller business owners to take the risk of standing up on their own.
Did you feel that before you came back, before you started doing this talking, these talks, is that why you did it? Or
I did it by mistake. I really am an accidental activist because a speech I made went viral and then it was too late. No. And it got
and
to a
your wife
point
was like, you bugger.
No, not only my wife. My wife and my father actually backed me and said they were very proud of me. But, family members, business partners, they were the ones going, what have you done?
Yes, so your brother phoned you. I've got a brother. He would have done the same.
Oh, no, I don't blame him for doing that. I love my brother. He's a great guy. But I've reached a point now where it's been 3.5 years in, and I'm seeing more and more people standing up. The funny thing is there are two words that I used 3.5 years ago. Moron. I called a lot of ANC people morons. I said, anyone who's still voting for the ANC is a moron. And then defined what a moron meant, an adult with an average age of 8 to 12. So it was clearly premeditated. And I used the word clowns. I called Cyril and his clown circus. And now I'm hearing a lot more people use moron and clown. So the dam is broken. It's not collapsed yet. And more people are standing up. So I kind of feel like I've moved the needle and I have helped shift the narrative. Because 5 years ago, no one would dare say negative things to the ANC.
Yeah.
Richard Trudeby once said to me at Mining Indaba, how dare you say that? The ANC liberated this country. I was like, oh, sorry. Yeah. But now more and more people are doing it.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be called out because it's been too much time that has passed. And I think you mentioned that it was often if you speak out, you get the racism thing thrown at you, which I can understand.
Or you get killed.
Wow.
The advantage I've had is that I'm high profile. And I spoke to a couple of people, Gayton and others, and said, am I at risk? And Gayton said, no, the ANC would never do it. There'd never be an organized hit on you. Maybe someone walk up to me in the street and do something, but would never be, you're too high profile. I'd hate to be the martyr, the guy they read about in history.
Oh,
Whacking him,
Rob, he
change
was
the
the
direction
guy.
of the country and save the country.
Yes.
It's like,
Go,
don't make it me.
It was
I'm sure
his
there are other
death
people.
that started.
There are other people there's a better list.
Yes.
going back to Trump.
Yeah.
Going back to Trump quickly, I see Ramaphosa's having a meeting with him shortly.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's not going to get the same treatment as Zelensky. He
I
could
think
well
he's
be,
gonna
don't
get
you think,
worse.
Rob?
I think it's
Worse.
gonna get worse.
You think?
Yeah. I
Well,
think
you say a lot of things that and you don't give yourself much time for people to say, "I told you so."
Donald Trump should tell Cyril to get stuffed.
Yeah, I think he's going to.
You know what Cyril does? Cyril just tells you what you want to hear in his smarmy, pleasant way,
correct.
and lies and lies and then does nothing. The Zondo Commission,
Yeah.
2 billion rand later, Cyril
Absolutely.
delivers the Zondo Commission. Nothing.
But that's not good for any of us, is it?
all these big corporates are going to talk to Cyril. Come back. Okay, Cyril's a good guy. We're buffalo buddies, trade buffaloes.
Yeah.
Cyril, zero. Lies.
But I mean, that's if he does, that's not going to be very good for any of us, surely. I mean,
Correct.
Why?
How
Trump
we
should should say, Cyril, you're sanctioned. All your money offshore.
So-
Bang, frozen. Bye-bye, back to South Africa.
this
Cyril,
individual's thing.
repeal EWC. Cancel this Iran-backed Islamic anti-Semitic ICJ case against Israel. Cancel it immediately. Withdraw it. And start killing BEE. Then I'll talk to you. Until then, Cyril, you're sanctioned. I think that's what Donald Trump should do.
I think we should let Rob get a dinner.
Yes, I think we need to get
Fantastic
go for
talking
the,
to you.
Let me just
Jeez, you wound me up.
pop
I'm
on
going to
a-
need a drink.
There's quite a bit of love coming for you in the
Oh,
comments
shit.
there. Let's have
Hold
a.
on.
You can just put
But
a
by the
couple of
way,
those as well.
I asked Ethel Trollope yesterday to make a comment, and I assumed it was tongue in cheek or in jest, but he said to me, "Rob and I are like honey and vinegar."
Can I be the vinegar?
No, I think you and
Ethel's a
Ethel could get
politician.
on.
Yeah, Ethel's
Yeah.
a politician. He's
That's a good
intelligent.
lad.
I respect him. But he's trapped in a. He's got to speak the action essay box. I can say anything.
Let's
But
just
he's
have
a
a
good
quick
guy.
look at some of the comments coming through there. Corin saying Rob for president. Lekker, some love for you there. Duncan from there's Duncan Phillips.
Thanks,
Said, old grey boy is coming on here. Brilliant guy, brilliant businessman. Big God at SA's future. Kama saying great to have this man on the show. Thank you, Kama.
Correct.
I
Thanks,
like the
Rob.
purple suit.
Yeah, I love it.
Garth Webster.
Garth Webster saying we need Doge multiplied by 10. Do you think we need Doge?
Desperately, as quickly as possible. The ANC need to cut cost. They've got to cut costs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
So we need to cut government somehow. Yeah. Shirley Zitzman, Rob speaks he's straightforward. Says thanks, Shirley. I see Garth saying thank you for fight. Keep up the good fight. He says as well. Debbie, brilliant podcast. Thank you very much, Debbie.
Thanks,
And Rob, I mean, anything you want to finish out your top priorities and what you're working on at the moment going forward. What is what's your thing?
so. My wife and I are going to Africa Burn tomorrow.
Oh,
Lovely.
How good
you
is that?
bunch of bloody hippies!
No, I'm not a hippie. I'm a redneck. But I love it.
Oh yeah, you like steampunk.
Yeah, I do like steampunk. Actually, I'm
I
going
love
as a Viking.
steampunk.
I've got a wolf's head on my head. I'll send you a picture.
Oh God, okay.
And a Viking outfit.
And then nothing
My wife
else,
looks-
obviously.
No,
Okay.
no. Wife looks so gorgeous.
I think we need to
what
get
am I
you
working
to
on?
do a talk here in Port Elizabeth, Rob.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm coming to Port Elizabeth May 16th, 17th.
Okay.
There's
Is
a
it
patriotic
Paul-
alliance-
16th.
There's a
I was
patriotic
going to say
alliance rally.
1670s in the past.
Oh, Gaten
May,
invited
May.
you.
Okay.
There's a
Gaten
patriotic alliance
invited you.
rally. Gaten invited me, so
Yeah.
please
Okay.
come. And I'd like to
good.
go to a rally. I quite enjoy these.
I think he wants you to get some more votes for the PA.
Wants me to sing. I got to practice my singing.
Oh my God.
You're not
He'll help you.
guys. There's an AI thing called Suno. I think it's SUNO.ai.
Yeah.
And yesterday, all you do is write the lyrics, press create, and the type of music you want. I did this like deep house song to my wife because it was her birthday. It's her birthday tomorrow, but I did the song yesterday. Katie, you rock my world. And I played it with our friends. We were up in the Cedarburg, and everyone's like, I haven't heard this song. This is really good. I went, listen to the lyrics.
Composer.
It's
I'll
clever.
send you a clip. I'll send you a clip of him on stage singing.
Yeah, no, we
You
do.
get some tips here.
user. But if you're going to Africa Burn, then Rob Capers might be DJing there. We're going to say, how's it to him from me?
I love it.
Gary's asking you about your bucket list. 2 more questions. Short question. Your bucket list, firstly, what do you still need to do?
Stand-up comedy.
Oh, well, I've done that. It's,
I know you have. You're
probably
my
better where you
hero.
are.
You're my hero. You know, Constantine Kissen is a very big podcast. He's got an incredible podcast called Trigonometry. And he was born in Russia, and he wrote a book called An Immigrant's Love Letter to the West. It's worth reading. It's genius. Okay. And he's been a bit of a podcast hero of mine. And I was at this ARC conference in February. He was there. And I went, and he did stand-up comedy and then got into podcasting. And now he's a big-time political analyst at the same level as Jordan Peterson. And I went up to him, said to him, please sign the book, blah, blah, blah. And this is what I do. And I'm thinking of getting into stand-up comedy. He went, well, good luck in that, man. He didn't see. He didn't think it was a good idea.
But it's great. It's high reward, high stress, high reward. That's what I always say. It's great.
Hero.
And
that's
then
my bucket list.
To end one, your most embarrassing moment, or something when something's gone wrong.
Oh my God, something happened to me today, but I can't tell you that. I was walking around. I was walking around in white jeans, and I get home. I've been all day in white jeans, meetings, and I walk home, and my wife looked at me up the pants and said, "Did you sit on something, or did something else happen?" And I was like, "This, the whole day, no one had the heart to tell me." They've been embarrassing.
Rob,
Guys, fantastic talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rob. Enjoy your dinner.
Absolutely.
And maybe we bump into you in May.
Africa Burn. I'd love to go as well.
I'll send you pictures.
And you got to only wear the wolf said and the windmill.
Yeah.
It's called the baby's arm. It's called the baby's arm. Bye, guys.
All the best, Rob.
Cheers,
Thank
Rob.
you.
Cheers.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Cheers, Rob.
Thank you, Ciao. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. That is us for the
What a
night. Thank you,
fantastic-
Faisal.
yeah,
What
great
a
pleasure.
great guest.
Wonderful guy.
Such an interesting guy. Yeah, absolutely.
I told you, we didn't have to say much. Our
He's
our
gonna-
questions were a millimeter long.
You
and-
could.
but
You
he
could.
really
No, he
speaks-
does his thing, and
he speaks beautifully and very
he's
articulate.
He's speaking. He's speaking his mind, and we need that
Correct.
in our dialogue here in this country. We need
Another
we
interesting
need that.
point he made was 4 or 5 years ago, people were scared to speak up
Yeah.
or talk out about the shit. And I mean, he's not changed that whole.
He has. And that's great.
Correct.
That's great. If the more dialogue there is, the better. People, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you next week on Gino Spot. Thank you to Fitch and Leeds, and thank you to Amobia for our internet, and of course to Fat Cats for our food as well.
And Gary.
And Gary for doing the sound. Thanks, man.
Thank you,
Cheers,
chaps.
guys. We'll see you next
Cheers.
week.
Relax, sit down. Coming out of PE town. One drink, find a shot. Never mind your liver, get to Gino Spot.
Gino Spot.
Get to Gino Spot.
Gino Spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your